Hello, I'm Calvin Morris and I'm here today to talk to you about Captain America Civil War. Now I'm going to try to keep this review as spoiler free as possible because I'm just going to want to talk about the story elements in the film, but I'm not going to be going into any sort of detail, so I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. That being said, let's talk about the good, let's talk about the bad, the things I liked, the things I didn't. Let's talk about Captain America Civil War. And right off the bat I'm going to say, can you see the smile on his face? Oh yeah, I loved this movie. I really did. I absolutely loved it. It was in the cinema. We got a couple of trailers before the film. You know, we got, Independence Day Resurgence, which looks really good. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Obviously we had the X-Men Apocalypse trailer as well, and again, do you know what? I'm not overly sold on the X-Men. I'm gonna go see the film, of course I am, but this trailer, that doesn't make me want to sit in the cinema and go, yeah, I can sit down and watch this. I probably will, you know. I'm one of those people, you know, they've already got me, they know they have, and even if I'm reluctant to see it, I'm still gonna go see it. But let's talk about Captain America Civil War, or in some countries this is called First Avenger Civil War, because not everybody's on board with the whole Captain America thing. Where to begin? Well, first of all, I do feel that this movie is not just a continuation of the Captain America story, but everybody's. And it's sort of the fallout from Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is sort of the setup for the events that are about to happen, but it feels like all the events from all the Avenger films, including the Iron Man movies as well, it's all come to a head and this is it. Now, is making it a Captain America film fair because it's kind of an ensemble piece? I think, you know, if they'd call it Marvel's Civil War, I think maybe they'd have got a bit more, I think that would have been a bit more honest about the film. But saying that, Captain America does play a pivotal role in the film, but then again so do so many others. There are one or two people in this film that are sort of put in there that aren't really pivotal, but I'll talk about those a little bit later on. So, the story is a complex situation in that it asks a lot of questions, and it further asks more questions than it answers, because to be honest with you, it doesn't really know the answers, and I think that's very good from storytelling standpoint. They battle it out and they're arguing against each other on these points, and neither point is really wrong. Though I did find myself siding a little bit more with Cap than Tony, because I do feel like a lot of the time that Tony is fooled by his guilt, that he only ever makes something due to his guilt. You know, in Iron Man he built the Iron Man suit because he was guilty, he built Ultron because he felt guilty, he done the Iron Man 3 because he was guilty about New York. Tony Stark's guilt fuels a lot of the problems, and this is another one of those instances whereby he is letting his guilt run rampant, and I'm surprised nobody's called him out on it yet. I'm really surprised that nobody's sort of just called him out and said, look, why do we have to go through this crap because you feel guilty? Stop it. You know, you're not responsible. You did your best, and maybe your best wasn't good enough, that's fine. But you're not responsible. Stop putting us through this shit. But that being said, again, looking at it from a Captain America point of view as well, the Cap's point was that maybe we should have free reign, maybe we should do everything that we feel we need to bring people to justice, and it becomes more complex when you introduce international borders and all that sort of stuff, and that's why they feel like the Avengers needs to be UN sanctioned, because they have to operate that way. So yeah, very complex issues, very, very loaded. The movie was 2 hours and 27 minutes long. You didn't notice the time, because it just didn't stop. From the moment the film got going, it just didn't stop. It was just beat after beat after beat after beat after beat. The moments where it slowed down, it didn't really slow down. There was still stuff going on. There was a lot of characters in this movie, and every character you feel got an equal amount of screen time. You don't feel like any one character was left out or was just there for the purposes of fan service. You do feel like, you know, everybody played a decent part in this film. So, what about the performances in this film? Well, Robert Downey Jr. delivers a Robert Downey Jr. performance. It's on its own scale. I mean, he is clearly Tony Stark. There's no ifs, buts or maybes about that. Anthony Mackie I thought was good in the film. Don Cheadle, probably a lesser role there, but still an important one. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I mean, wow, that was a real good call. Having Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa was, I thought, a brilliant move, because here was a guy who was playing Black Panther, and he was also playing a king, and he managed to somehow deliver a performance where the character was powerful. He had clarity. He had a presence. You felt his royalty in an odd way. It was like he was in charge. The way he held himself, the way he talked, his choice of words, the small things that made you just feel like, you know, I can believe this guy's a king. And as Black Panther, I thought it was incredible. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. The comedy in this film tends to come from characters such as Paul Rudd as Ant-Man and Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I'm going to talk about Spider-Man a little bit later. But there was a lot of things that all the Marvel movies have thrown up in the air, and you do feel like this was sort of tying them off. There were sort of ends to stories here. There was certain characters leaving the franchise here. I felt that it handled it very, very well. I felt that whilst it was saying these chapters have closed, there's new chapters beginning. And I thought that this movie handled it very well. And again, like I said, I don't know how they managed to do it in 2 hours and 27 minutes, because it just barreled along. The action in this film was an interesting one, because whilst it was big level action, you don't feel that the action was outside the tone of the film. They didn't try to go bigger than what the film needed. So the action was scaled back by comparison to movies like Avengers, and yet it was still big action, it was still big set pieces, it was still huge to see, even though they'd scaled it down from being, you know, citywide, you know, international destruction to this localized area. But what they managed to do was concentrate the destruction in that localized area and give you the same level of detail, the same level of action, the same level of destruction just in this one area, as opposed to making it this big, huge international catastrophe, as so many of these action films do. And I appreciated that. I thought that, you know, things like the chase sequences and you know, these little fight sequences, they didn't all rely on these big, huge pieces. I mean, there's quite a large fight. You've probably already heard that there's a large fight at the airport. So a small spoiler there. You know, there is a big fight at the airport. But again, it's localized. It doesn't really leave that confined area. Which I really thought was good. I really enjoyed it. It fit the tone of the film. It fit the story very well. It all flowed from start to finish. Everything was adding to the conclusion, and you get some fights that feel very personal. And again, the fights came from storytelling. They weren't fighting just for the sake of fighting. They weren't being forced to fight. They were doing it because they felt it was what they believed in, and that made each fight that happened felt very personal to those characters. Let's talk about the visual effects in this film. Wow. Okay, just wow. Okay, small tiny little spoiler here. Okay, small tiny little spoiler. There is a scene in this film where we get to see a 20-something Robert Downey Jr. It is fan-freaking-tastic. I swear, I'm not making it up. The visual effects for that entire scene were outstanding. They outdone themselves just in that one scene. Like all the destruction stuff and cars flipping and heroes swinging around, we've all seen before, and it was all these big visual effects of stuff exploding, and it was all great. It's all very nice, but that to be able to nail that, to be able to take Robert Downey Jr. and to de-age him by 35 something years was fantastic. Just absolutely incredible. And that was the level that set the bar for the visual effects in this film, and they followed it right the way through. So yeah, I thought it was very, very good. And again, we were getting great performances out of people like Don Cheadle, Andy Mackie, Jeremy Renner. Jeremy Renner again is one of those characters which you kind of want to see. Yeah, you kind of want to see Hawkeye get his own movie. I mean, you just know it's not gonna happen, but it would be nice. It would just be nice for that character just to have his own little movie. I'd be happy if it was a TV movie, to be honest, but it would be just a little bit of something. Okay, he's done his service, he's done his time. Give him his movie. But yeah, it was all very, very good from start to finish. Now, to mention the characters that I said weren't exactly pivotal to the plot, but did play some sort of part, and that is Ant-Man and Spider-Man. They were responsible for levity. That is what these characters were responsible for. When this film, because of the tone of this film is very much in the same vein as Winter Soldier, they were responsible for when things got intense to be able to give you a giggle, and they did. I just some of the things that they did in this film that was solely on them. It wasn't on anybody else. No other characters really were out for gags, but they were, and they got them. They nailed them every time. Again, let's talk a bit more about Spider-Man in this film. This was Marvel's Spider-Man auditioning for Sony, saying, "Look at what we can do." And if Sony doesn't hand Marvel some real serious creative control here, then they're idiots, because this was Spider-Man. This was the Spider-Man that I grew up with. This was the Spider-Man that I read in the comics. This was the Spider-Man that I've seen throughout since I knew of Spider-Man, that this was the guy. And that's where you got from Tom Holland was Spider-Man. His Peter Parker was a gobby, mouthy, wisecracking, annoying pain in the ass. 10 out of 10. Just bloody 10 out of 10. That is who Peter Parker is. Okay? He's not Peter Parker unless he's verbally abusing somebody whilst he's beating the hell out of them. And it was just amazing. It was just the tone of it. Again, his wisecracking, the insults that he didn't really throw insults, but it was more like, I'm gonna make you feel old now, and and it was just very, very good. The conclusion to this film then leaves a lot of things open, which is great, but it does actually have a good solid conclusion, but it does leave a few things open. Stay in the cinema as well for the post-credit scene. There's two. And that's pretty much it. I thought it was a fantastic film. The cinematography could have been done a little better, I feel. You know, it was nothing to write home about. The action did get a little bit choppy, cutty in the edit. The sound I thought was good. The music I felt accompanied the film perfectly. I didn't feel that either one was battling against each other, and it felt really, really like it was. It worked very well in tandem with the film. The sound, the audio mixing, everything like that, I thought was very, very well done. You know, when characters are in the distance, they actually turned the volume down a little bit, so you had to listen to them a little bit. When they got closer, it was, you know, and I say the same thing with the explosions and things like that. It was just incredibly well done. To criticise this film for a couple of its failings and things like, you know, like I said, the cinematography got a little bit choppy, and there were times in an action scene whereby my brain was going, oh wait, processing, and I had to sort of catch up. But it was still a very, very solid piece, and I don't think anybody else could have directed this film better. I really don't, because it must have taken an extreme level of concentration to stay on top of this movie. So yeah, very well done to the Russos for that. I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. Like I said, there's the only problems I had with this film were that it was heavily loaded. It did move at a hell of a pace, which was good, but because there wasn't really that much time to take it all in and to have a think and to process. You know, this movie could have done with an extra, you know, 5-6 minutes, but really and truly, based on what we got, it's a 9 out of 10, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So that's my thoughts on Captain America Civil War. Let me know what you think of this film. So feel free to like and comment on this video, subscribe to this channel, or go over and join me on Google+. But until next time, I'll see you later, guys.